I've always been different. I've always had an amazing imagination. I've always been the odd one out. I was born in 1979. I was the middle of 5 children, 1 brother and 3 sisters. Ever since I was little, I've been driven by obsessions. If something clicks, it becomes stuck in my mind and I can't get it out until I grow bored of it. Toys or games, movies or songs. I used to memorise entire films word for word. I would create stories and games. I was happy. Then I evolved from a cute little child into a smelly teenager, and something happened in my brain. The only way that I can describe it is that it suddenly felt like all the protection from the horrible things in the world had vanished. The walls of my mind fell down. All the hurt and evilness of the world began to creep in, and I found it all impossible to ignore. I started writing around this time. I loved painting pictures with words, and my teachers were impressed with my skills. But I also started self-harming, and I discovered alcohol not long after. When I was drunk, everything became easy, especially the social aspects of life, conversations and spending time with people. I didn't realise that I was self-medicating, and I was numb to the person that I was becoming. When I left school, I studied music at college. I loved music just as much as I loved writing. It was one of the few things that I didn't need alcohol to enjoy. My son, Callum, was born when I was just 19 years old. I did my best to be a good father and partner, but my dependency on alcohol was too strong. I couldn't control myself or the thoughts in my head, and due to my behaviour, my partner and I split up. By the age of 21, I was covered in scars, and I had almost killed myself through years of alcohol abuse. I was left with a choice: drink myself to death or try and get better. I went to rehab. I was there for a year and a half, learning how to exist without alcohol and learning how my brain works. I learned so many things. Addiction has to be addressed at its most fundamental level. I had to learn who I was. But luckily, I'm a sponge when it comes to absorbing information. The most important lesson I learned was that you should never lie to yourself. When I left rehab, I moved into a flat on my own. It was then that I realised something terrible. Sobriety hurt. My problems were still there. Relapses and new addictions followed. I ended up joining a band, For My Anger. People never really wanted to talk to me normally, but when they saw my creations or my performances, that would change. I couldn't sustain the friendships that I made though. I always seemed to say or do the wrong thing. I felt like an alien, and I began to believe that there was something wrong with me. The band eventually broke up, and I was alone for a long time. But I continued to create things. It was what I loved doing, and it was why I decided to study creative writing and screenwriting at university. I loved the lessons, but I still really struggled with the social aspects of life. Things eventually became too much for me, and after relapsing again I had a breakdown. I had begun to believe that I was just an addict and that there was no hope for me, but then, after 36 years of life, I was diagnosed with autism. It was like a really well written twist at the end of a film. All the clues and hints had been there all along. I felt like I had been looking at things wrong my entire life, and all that was needed was a tiny shift in perspective for everything to suddenly make sense. It took me a long time to process the news. I remember going through the stages of grief, but the information eventually settled in, and I finally began to enjoy existing in my own skin. I finished university with a first in screenwriting. I was featured on the radio and in the newspaper for my achievement. Since then, I've used my creations as a way of keeping my obsessions and addictions under control. It took me a long time, but I finally managed to put my wicked mind to good use.
I was born in 1998. I grew up quite scared and anxious, despite my amazing supportive mother. Outside influences led to me having a really bad stutter and struggling a lot with subjects at school. I couldn't read or write very well. I would go to visit my dad every 2 weeks. We would make short films with teddies and play computer games. During this time, my dad was in a band, For My Anger. Yes, that is what FMA stands for. I was lucky to see them perform when I was very young. After the show, I knew I wanted to be involved with music somehow. I would dream about one day writing a song or performing with my dad. I created an acoustic metal band with my friends in primary school called Rock Against the Stone. Copyrighted. We had no instruments or understanding of music, but would attempt to cover songs with only our voices. Around the time my very first band split up, I moved to Lancaster. Me, my mum, and little brother lived on an estate just outside of the town centre. Me and my little brother went to a privately funded school where we would learn about nature, the lunar cycles, and art. It was also at this school where I had my first experience with writing. One day a rapper came into school and we were asked to write a poem. I chose to write about my dog. And lemons, obviously. Out of every subject and all the hobbies I'd tried, rhyming words seemed like a natural fit to me. It allowed me to express myself. However, being a kid, I quickly forgot about that poem and how it made me feel. Then it was time to move again. We moved to Burnley. I became more nervous and self-conscious as I changed schools. I was still struggling with subjects until the point that people would call me stupid. It was only a lot later in college I would learn that I was actually dyslexic. But at that moment, performing had left my head. This was all until one day in high school. I'd begun listening to rap, I identified with the messages, and had such an admiration for the culture. My mum would play me music and buy me albums. I would listen to everything from Wu-Tang Clan to the Streets. One fateful day a poster appeared on the school notice board. In bold letters it said, "Learn how to rap." I paid it no attention, until one of my friends pointed it out. But me being a cocky teenager, I firmly stated, I already know how to rap. This led to two things. Firstly, I started writing, mainly so I could look and feel like I was Eminem from 8 Mile. It also made me remember the freedom and control that writing gave me though. Secondly, I was bullied for my inability to actually rap. People would always ask me to rhyme words and I would be bombarded with them. This would stress me out until I wanted to cry. This pushed me further though. I often wonder now, looking back, if I wasn't picked on for wanting to be a rapper, would I have pursued it as passionately as I did? My main goal was to prove I could do it, but due to a lot of bullying during high school, I developed vices and unhealthy strategies for coping with my own thoughts and feelings. I was going down a very similar path that Dad did. This all came to a head when I had to move out of my mum's house and moved in with my dad. Due to his past, he was able to guide me to see where I was falling into unhealthy strategies. I found it incredibly stressful, but now I see how necessary it was. While in Preston, I made more supportive friends, who would encourage me to freestyle. One even became our cameraman. While Dad was showing me how to be a better person, I was still writing and showing him new ideas, verses, or freestyling to him every day. I would bug him to write a song with me, but he had fallen out of love with music. He would still give me advice and constructive criticism though. Every day I would improve in some way. While this was all going on, my mum had started to organise a Love Music Hate Racism gig, and she asked Dad if he'd write some songs with me and perform them to help my confidence. So we worked and we wrote. I memorised my sections and my dad's. We first performed when I was 15. The gig went better than either of us could have imagined. I was under the impression that was the only gig that we would perform together. But Dad kept saying just one more song, just one more gig, until finally, one day, FMA plus 12 Gage was born.
Now, a father and son from Preston who live with mental health and learning difficulties have turned to their shared passion for music to inspire others.
Yes, they perform as FMA plus 12 Gage.
You stole my newspaper!
Turn my CV up in numero quarter while I'm forming. Jericho and me ego and Tito all rapping father. Could believe this and preteens, feces, break ones underneath. For my anger, 5, I'm 6, only 20. With every step I take, I'm one step closer to my awake. With every minute closer to my limit, pick up the pace. Listen, all of a sudden you graduated. It's the
Whoa, haven't even heard the talk yet, but thanks for the applause. Hi, I'm 12 Gage.
Hi, I'm FMA.
And this is our talk on creativity. We hope you enjoy it. So, we've been creating together now for the past 6 years. It's been annoying at points, but yeah, I think we can both agree though that creativity has been the most rewarding self-care that there is when it comes to me and him. Like, literally, we wouldn't be the people we are today if it wasn't for creativity.
No, we wouldn't, but annoying.
I'm just saying.
I apologise for 12 Gage, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you are here at our talk on creativity. We genuinely would maybe not be here today. I know I wouldn't. I would probably be dead somewhere.
Yeah.
And Callum would be on a very bad route to somewhere.
Something bad.
Yeah, we are here with talking about creativity because creativity to us has given us a new lease on life.
Yeah.
It has allowed us to get rid of so much negativity and so many destructive and bad thoughts in our heads in a positive way, that it's something that we believe everyone should be doing.
Yeah, in some form. We don't just mean like rapping or writing scripts like we do in any form, because creativity comes in many forms.
Yes.
But yeah, so how would you, because I think we need to nail it down a bit, how do you think that it has benefited you?
The creativity, well, I tend to have extremes of emotion. I don't just feel a little happy or a little sad. I feel ecstatic, or I feel so depressed that I want to kill myself. There's no in between. I'm a person of extremes. And what creativity does, it allows me to spend time putting down in words exactly how those emotions make me feel, rather than just going up to someone or a counsellor or a therapist and going, oh, I feel really, really bad. And then they're like, okay, right, you feel really, really bad. I can create stories that describe the horrible upset that I feel, or make songs that express the true anger that I feel in those moments. Yeah. And that's what creativity does. Yeah. It is the most therapeutic thing that I've ever done, and I've spent a lot of my life in counselling and therapy and stuff, but none of it ever compares to the creations that I create.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, one of the really, really good examples that I have, it's not one of our creations, but there's a film called Seven, directed by David Fincher, and the writer of that film, well, if you've seen the film, you know it's quite horrific, and it's really horrible, and it's quite a very dark look at reality. Yeah. But the writer of that film, he was from like the countryside in America, and like really quaint and rural and all horses, and that's what I'm assuming. Yeah. But he went to live in New York, and on every street corner in New York, he was seeing things that he'd never ever experienced in his life.
Like the extremes.
Yeah, the extremes
of humanity.
Yeah, the extremes of humanity, beggars, violence, drugs, and all sorts of things. And he said it was making him ill. And from that place of disgust and upset and things came this truly horrific script. Yeah. But it's captured within the script is the emotions that he was feeling. Yeah. And I'm sure him writing that was the most cathartic thing ever. Definitely. Because he got to put on film, on paper, how he felt. And being able to express yourself is the most important thing, I think, to dealing with mental health. It is for me anyway. Yeah. I'm going quiet so you can talk.
All right, cool.
I'm sure you've got examples of that as well.
Well, how I think creativity benefits me, benefited and still does benefit me, is I pretty much, when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, I was really anxious, like an incredibly anxious, scared kid, really. And I didn't think I had much worth in myself. And it's a horrible feeling, that, like, walking around seeing all your negatives, thinking you are just negative. And I'm pretty sure even some people watching may feel like that. Some people watching may know people who feel like that. And creativity literally gave me, like, writing rap gave me, I want to say role models, and I know that there'll also be people here who are like, rappers as role models, ooh. But, like, these people were able to express, put their thoughts, what they wanted to say with no, like, hindrance at all, and just put that on a page and then go out and perform it, and people would love it. And a lot of the time, it's what these people are expressing are, like, the negative aspects of life. But I feel like the way that it benefited me personally was being able to see myself having worth, be able to see myself as contributing something at a time when I felt like there was nothing I had to contribute to anything.
It made you feel powerful, didn't it?
Yeah.
From a place of powerlessness, it gave you power. It gave you agency within the world. And it made the things that you thought important because they were part of the song. There was something that people would listen to.
And then even weirder, like I've said this to you, but even weirder, after that, it gave me responsibility because it turned me from powerless to powerful. And then I'd just write because it was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to write, this is what I want to do. And then if either anyone has met us, you know that we've been involved with charities, we've done multiple things, we went into schools, and it was kind of then when it flipped, knowing that my words actually had power. It wasn't just power to me, it was power to the people who were listening, and that then gave me responsibility later on in life.
Yeah. And I think part of creativity is a lot of it's subconscious. So when something upsets you, it's not right at that moment, but you can get it out.
Yeah.
And I know with me that I create things that have to do with things that I've gone through, but I never realised it's what I'm actually doing. So I wrote a film script and that was about a bad breakup that I went through, but I didn't realise that until well after the point.
Yeah.
But you naturally, no matter what it is that you're creating, whether it's a sculpture, whether it's a dance, a song, you will naturally put your subconscious thoughts and feelings into that thing, and it will feel so cathartic.
Because it's also inspiration, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's just what naturally comes out. If you relax and begin to create, your brain will say, right, this needs dealing with, this is on my mind, this is what's going into this.
Yeah.
And I can't explain it. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't tell you the secrets exactly as it works, but I know that that's what works. It works with me, and it's worked with you, and it's worked with so many other people that I've seen.
Definitely.
So
like what you said, and I think it kind of freaked me out as well at the time, is that so many writers who have written about people they still know.
Oh yeah.
And those people will never don't have a clocked on to the fact that what this person has written is about them.
Yeah.
And they'll just be there like, oh, that was a good story.
Yeah.
But they don't know it's about them.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of that as well with creativity.
Yeah, it's making sense.
Yeah.
Going on back tangent, it's making sense of things that have happened. So I can create these characters, put them into a story and have them talk, and I'll be like, oh, that's why that person thought that, and that's why that person reacted like that, because it allows you to see everything from a place outside of yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
When it comes to script writing anyway.
Yeah.
And I find the level of control that script writing gives me, especially with conversations, because I'm awful at talking to people, but when I can spend hours and hours and hours building conversations, then it feels, it's just nice.
As a quick thing I think you should talk about is Zach.
Oh yeah, one of the things that I have discovered through creativity is that by naming something, you give it substance. And if something has substance, it's no longer this thing that just exists. So all my depression, all my addictions, everything like that, I've now named Zach. And so if I'm having a bad day, if I'm wanting to drink or anything like that, it's Zach's fault, it's not mine. And it relieves so much responsibility and so much guilt and things, because it's no longer me that's the issue, it's the thing in my head.
But there is also a massive thing which I think we both feel when it comes to creativity, which is that it's kind of this gated off thing where it's like
magical.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they just made that within like
you
a
need
minute.
Hats, smoke cigarettes, and you need to be in big fancy houses and be eating these fancy meals to be able to create, and that's a complete nonsense. And part of our goal is to share our mistakes and share the struggles that creativity actually is.
Yeah, so we can encourage people to hopefully create and dispel that myth in this talk that only a select few people can create, because everyone can do it, and even if you don't realise it, you're probably subconsciously creating.
Yeah, so with that in mind, we would like to lead on to the next section of our talk. We're going to be taking you through two extremes of creativity. And so for the first part of this, may we welcome to you the short story, Kevin.
in a solar system, on the most infinite outskirts of the universe, there lived a very naughty planet called Kevin. Kevin had always been obsessed by the stars that hung like diamonds in the darkness around him. He would have given anything to shine like them. Kevin was barely old enough to have his own moon, let alone be spinning out of orbit, but like a shooting star he danced across the universe, hopping over black holes, weathering cosmic storms, and riding the waves of supernovas until one day he arrived. 1 million years later, he returned. "Quasars and crumpets," his ever-glowing mother said when she noticed him trying to slink back into orbit. "What have you been doing? You're covered pole to pole in dark matter." "I'm sorry, Mummy. I wanted to be a star." Kevin sadly shook and continents formed across his surface. "But when I got there, I found they were just like us." His mother caressed him with sunlight. "Silly Kevin. I know it's hard to see, but you are a star. Everyone's a star to someone. It just depends on where you're looking from." Kevin thought for a moment, then smiled. "Thanks, Mom." And the universe went on spinning.
And that was Kevin, a short story that I wrote for a short story slam. A short story slam is a competition where loads of writers get together and you get given limits on how to create these stories. So it might be a theme, it might be some other instructions. The instructions for this story was 200 words, and 200 words is not a lot of room to get a story in. But yeah, we were told to write these stories, so I was racking my brains for some subject to write this story on when I was just sat on a bus one day, and all of a sudden the sentence popped into my head: "There was once a naughty planet called Kevin." And I fell in love with that sentence the second, but like I had it in my head. And when I went to start working on it, the story just wrote itself, because what would a naughty planet do? A naughty planet would run away. Why would he run away? Because he would want to be like the stars. And what would he find when he got to the stars? He would find that they were just like him, and so he would return home. And that's it. That was the whole process of this story. I asked my fiancée to narrate it and a very, very talented friend to draw the pictures for it, and voila, you have seen the results. And now, on to the very, very opposite end of the creativity spectrum, we have our music video for Unstoppable. Would you like to tell the audience about the process that we went through for this, please?
Certainly. So, Unstoppable started when I was really young at the time. I found a sampled Led Zeppelin track on YouTube, and I decided to write a verse for it about how far I'd come as a performer since starting FMA plus 12 Gage. It was originally meant to be a song for me, by me, so my first solo kind of debut. And I showed Dad, he thought it was awesome. He said I should do more. So I wrote 2 more verses. I then went back to Dad, and he didn't think the second verse was that good, so he suggested he should write the second verse and we should make it an FMA plus 12 Gage song.
And the verse I wrote was phenomenal.
We performed it for years. It quickly became a crowd favourite. It was always the tipping point at gigs where people would start dancing, or, you know, a couple of people would start moving. And we used to have a friend called Alex that would absolutely go mental for this song as soon as it came on. He'd be like the thing that broke that awkward layer of tension in the gig. But very sadly, this friend ended up passing away. And when it came time to remake this song for our debut album on Bandcamp, if you want to check it out, we wanted to dedicate that song to him. Before we could do that though, we had to remake the beat and the chorus. And we were stuck for a while because neither of us can make beats.
No.
But luckily we had a friend who did, and he has been our producer ever since. He completely produced our entire first album. But now, all we needed to do at that time was write a chorus that was better than Led Zeppelin. We decided we wanted a female vocalist because this was our most mainstream sounding song, but we couldn't find a singer. And we began to lose hope again. Until another member of our family stepped up, ironically for a father-son rap duo I know, and FMA's sister, my auntie, sung the chorus on Unstoppable, so we brought a new chorus. We thought it was ace. We listened back, and it wasn't right. So we had to write another chorus. We went back to the drawing board. 1 second. There is more. So when we went back to the drawing board, the mistakes we had made in the first attempt of writing that chorus showed us what worked and what didn't, and also how we could get it right the second time around. We recorded it, and this time it was perfect. Then we had to start working on the actual music video. So we planned on making it ourselves, like our YouTube series, but we'd never undertaken something of this size with this many people.
This magnitude.
Exactly. But luckily, he had some friends from uni called Route 9 Studios, and they came to our rescue. And FMA had an idea for this music video that would tell the story of what Alex used to do at our gigs. And the best way he could think of getting his idea across was a prototype.
Yep.
What you're looking at right now is that prototype version of the Unstoppable video. As I'm pretty sure you can tell, FMA created this using the toys he'd kept since he was a child. And that prototype took an entire day to create. The video would tell the story of a man at an awkward gig who would be the spark that would set off a chain reaction amongst the audience. There was also another story, because it's us, it can never be simple, and that was the story of missing out on things through being too worried about what other people think of you. We see that all the time at gigs, people sat on the sidelines really wanting to join in, but, you know...
Too self-conscious
to actually do it. And the idea was for the video to evolve from an awkward gig into a pop music video. So we decided to use friends, fans and family as the crowd, and we also cast Alex's elder brother as the spark that would get the crowd moving. And after all of that, this is what we had.
Enjoy.
When I say I'm unstoppable, I mean it. Breathed it, alleviated, even with it. Welcome to Gage's lyrical seminar. Let me show you how to make a reputable repertoire. Rip them all up, simple as simmer. Take the DNA of FMA and the mind of a sinner. Set his soul like an ant for your roping up. Come on, I've always been top of the food chain. Top a new wave, stopping halfway through their tracks. Even if I had a barcode strapped to the back of my head, still couldn't keep track of my train of thought. Pain of a showman slash shogun with a broken sword. A shocking slogan, like system, judge chop coke and a double mocker with a pro stakes. So go!
I can't tell if I'm still breathing, still dreaming. I can't help but hear the sounds I've drowned. I can't help but keep on asking for one last sound.
Is he autistic, artistic arsonist? An alcoholic with a mouthful of arsenic. I'm bringing an art to it, more than a part of it. The perverted point, ready to rip it to bits. I'm leveling up in it, I'm reveling in every second. I reckon that I can hear the bunches back and deafen. I close my eyes and I see the lines swimming through my mind. So many words, so little time, so I better devise another design. I better be better than ever, I bet you this time I'm divine. With the shadow on my back and my teeth as they grind, I'm gonna be sublime, never mind, you get another chance, another time. Cause when you get right to the heart of it, I don't want the human race, we're not a part of it. Disqualified for superior brain power, thoughts are racing at a million trillion miles an hour, I'm unstoppable.
I can't tell if I'm still breathing, still dreaming. I can't help but hear the sounds I've drowned. I can't help but keep on asking for one last sound.
Simmer down, tip, pivot, tip, kid with a trim top. Spit rhymes so it looks like a trip top. Same up with cigarette. Pick a picture, anyone, I'll be posing a threat. This is just a catalyst, a cause and effect. Of course it's gonna affect me. Creative these hectic head trips. Paramedics left me to burn, I'm not concerned, barely vermin. Oh, you can't limit this. Bigger heaven if I stood atop the pyramids. And start pushing Roman numerals. So unusual, but excuse you all, I've been working on this. So prepare for burning bodies, almost bonnets. Cause it's honestly my policy to be picky about it. Till you figure out, but you're sick of me now. Taking these lyrics and I'm living them down.
I can't tell if I'm still breathing, still dreaming. I can't help but hear the sounds I've drowned. I can't help but keep on asking for one last sound. I can't tell if I'm still breathing, still dreaming. I can't tell if I'm still breathing, still dreaming. I can't tell if I'm still breathing, still dreaming. One last sound.
And that was our music video for Unstoppable.
We both hope you enjoyed it.
Yep, the entire process from start to finish for Unstoppable took 4 years.
4 years.
And Kevin took around an hour. So yeah, that will hopefully show you some idea of the differences and extremes that creativity can be. It's not one set thing, and it's never going to be one set thing. You just follow what feels right.
Yeah.
And our goal with this talk was to encourage people to hopefully start creating, or for them to encourage other people to start creating.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we came up with a list of tips that will hopefully help you.
Yeah. And we know that these tips, there are a lot, they can seem overwhelming. So if you would like a text document of these tips, just send us an email or send us a message. The information will be on after the talk.
Yeah, we'll include our email address in a section that's due to come up. Okay.
But also remember that what we say isn't gospel. There is no right or wrong way to create. If something works for you, do it. It's just about being creative.
Yeah, this is what works for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to start.
Okay.
Don't compare yourselves to others of a great skill level when you're just starting out. It can be extremely disheartening.
I used to do this all the time. I compare myself to rappers who've been doing it for years, and it almost made me want to quit what I was doing. Also, create for yourself, not to make other people happy. That should be the first thing that you do.
Yeah, that's what creativity is for. To be a writer, all you need to do is write. To be an artist, all you need to do is draw.
Let go of the fear that comes with creating. I know that it can seem a really difficult thing to put yourself out there, and no one really needs to hear it, but if you don't create, you don't know what you can do.
Yeah, always be open to change. Never be afraid to experiment. Creativity at its core is about fun and playfulness. So be silly and just have lots of fun.
Yeah. Also, creativity is like a muscle. The more you train it, the better you'll get at it.
Yeah, anything can be fuel for creativity, whether it's positivity or negativity.
Nice. There are no worthless ideas. Everything can be a good idea. So just write it down, work on it. A bad idea can become a good idea.
Yep. Sometimes inspiration will strike, as in Kevin, and sometimes you need to push to get the result that you're working for.
Like Unstoppable.
Yeah, like the Unstoppable music video.
If you have a good idea, write it down. Never just try to remember it.
Yeah, because you'll just end up forgetting everything.
Yeah.
Creativity is expression. There is no right or wrong. If your creations make you feel, whether it be happy, sad, joyful, or silly, or whatever, it's done its job. It's there to evoke emotion.
Learn constructive criticism and how to do it.
Find your very own constructive critic, whether it be a friend or someone you trust. Someone who won't just say, oh, that's really good, like your mum.
Like him.
Like my mum. What?
Find your very... Oh, no, wait, that's... Find someone to bounce their ideas around with, like him.
Yeah. Don't self-critique what you make into oblivion. It's easy to be like, oh, that's not as good as like what that person does or something. And it's easy to look into your work and just...
Tear it apart.
Yeah, just tear it apart. And it's hard to see the goodness in it. So don't do that.
Yeah. If you're struggling, try setting yourself a 90-minute, time limit and just see what you can do in that period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use absolutely everything to your advantage. Autism and dyslexia allows us to see the world in a different way to most people.
You're an individual at the end of the day. Embrace your differences because no one can create like you.
Yep. Be aware and be honest about your strengths and your weaknesses. If you can't get the result that you want, there may be another way to do it. A really good example for this is I used to want to be a singer, but I'm tone deaf. So I started creating songs using my skills with words and my ability to speak fast as my method of evoking emotion.
All creative pursuits inform other creative pursuits. So storytelling can help how you view songs and how you write songs. Also, writing songs can help you put rhythm inside of dialogue in stories.
Yeah, there's a lot more ways. It's just they're two really simple ones. Do not let anyone destroy your passion for creativity.
Never ever discourage someone else from creating. Always encourage.
Yes. Learn to trust your instincts.
Be patient, be persistent, and persevere.
Yep.
Those were really difficult to say.
Yeah, go on.
So an example of this. So when we were creating our second EP, Something Wicked This Way Comes, we had almost finished all of it. We were so close to the ending. We had 5 songs and we just had to get one more song done. Until I had a knock on my door in the morning. This is after I'd just woken up. I hadn't even had a brew or a cigarette, so I was very grumpy.
Don't smoke.
Also, don't smoke. It's really not good. But I'd just woken up. I was very tired and I had a knock at my door and it was my dad and he said...
I've scrapped all the songs.
He'd scrapped all the songs. I didn't realise at that time what was actually happening or what had happened, but I realise now it was because we could have done a lot better. So never settle for something until you're happy with it.
Yeah. If you know you can do better and people are saying, oh, come on, it's finished now, don't ever settle for that. Because that's really frustrating, is that?
But the main takeaway from this rule is to not give up on an idea until you personally are happy with it.
Yeah.
Because the truth about creativity is no one else can help you create. You're the only person who can do it. But the secret is that you can do it.
Yeah. One of the best ways to improve creatively is to go outside of your comfort zone.
For instance, another story. When we first started FMA plus 12 Gage, I was feeling really nervous and self-conscious on stage. It was kind of new to me. I didn't know how to express myself or be boisterous, but he was still being mental him. So instead of just staying in that sort of little pocket of, I don't know how to do this, I'm never going to be like that on stage, I decided to join a band and be the front man by myself, and it was incredibly scary. I realised in that moment the difficulty you have when you're a front man just trying to get the crowd involved. But it also taught me so much, which I then carried over later into FMA and 12 Gage and everything I do since then.
Yeah.
Yep.
What?
I felt like you were doing the next one. Creative blocks happen to everyone. It's almost like you've sprained a creative muscle, really. Yeah. But when you've sprained a muscle, you have to rehab it and you can't go back to, I don't know, doing squats or anything.
No, you've got to take things really slowly. And it's so easy when you've got a creative block to get stressed at yourself. And that's the exact opposite of what you want to do. If you're struggling to create, be proud of the very, very tiny things that you make.
So little steps lead to big things, and keep that in mind.
Yeah. And this tip has absolutely nothing to do with creativity, but if you're speaking in front of an audience or getting up in front of people, the first 5 minutes are always the worst.
Yeah.
If you can get through those first 5 minutes, your body and your mind will begin to calm down, and the rest will be smooth sailing compared to those first 5 minutes.
And remember, that Picasso couldn't paint like Van Gogh, who couldn't paint like Dali, and you are the only person with your thoughts, ideas, and experiences, so no one can create like you can create, and never lose belief in yourself.
Yes. And that has been our talk on creativity, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. Thank you for listening. I'm glad whoever's still here watching, I hope that you took something away from this.
Yep.
We have been FMA plus 12 Gage.
Oh, before we go, just one last thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been FMA plus 12 Gage, and this is our goodbye, good night. I'm 1 in a billion, and I'm building on my brilliance. From the ground up, I've read flowing filament. Mental and physical, I'm fighting on both fronts. No point up in the end, it's approaching and it's all done. And I'm spitting in strong style, like Shabbat, Rasa, never let the pain matter. I'm here to wreak havoc with my patterns are full of pattern. My passages are lyrical pan. I make dominance my habit. I make perfectionism my profession. I'm not perfect, but I'm a perfect combination of obsession, depression, and venom. Passion and aggression, imagination, I'm threatening. Bringing in the deafening, conducting chaos in my cranium. Got your heads a nodding. Got your cerebellum's popping, with the flows I'm dropping. Got it by the tail and I'm not stopping. Got the sonics and phonics, honest and promises of torrents of abhorrence. I'm just being honest. I weave words. I pick the stars out of the sky. I steal the pennies from your eyes. Tell you the sweetest lies. I create to survive. I create to destroy. And I'ma conquer the world with these words. From the darkness I emerge, my lips curled. I was dreaming of the sickest of the wicked. When the lightning a bus struck, that's when my mind woke up. I took a dance to the floor and rubbed Sam's up. Never enough, I covered in rust. I suffered enough, breathing up, it is such a rush. But it separates us. Stand side by side, two of a kind. Beneath the crowd, jump, rebuild on the ground. The shock of the sound waves. Prominent and we're dominant on the page ain't great. When the lightning struck, I've been sitting thinking, this dizziness is limitless. Flickering vivid images like an old film in my head and just morphing, distorting the mundane to a morbid picture. This existence is our persistence, and any form of resistance is quickly turned to fiction. Keep on going and ignore the friction. You can't ever shine from its distance. Why? Cause we'll just bring it up louder. Hoods up, heads down, while we're getting in out of subject matter. Stand up, stand down, and stand out. But say something with no conviction, it could shatter the outlets. Make it matter even if it better the rallies. Take it up another level, step it up in mileage. Make every moment defining, go from grey to ultraviolet. I wield words that will set the streets alight. That will set the streets alight. Take you with me to new heights. Take you with me to new heights. From a person who wasn't even worth the time. Just a wayward northern kid with a wayward words who found a rhyme. Now we're replacing his mind. So let the passion shine. Free! When the lightning a bus struck, that's when my mind woke up. I took a dance to the floor and rubbed Sam's up. Never enough, I covered in rust. Something enough, rising up, it is such a rush. But then it separates us. Stand side by side, two of a kind. Beneath the crowd, jump, rebuild on the ground. And we got the shock of the sound wave. Prominent and we're dominant on the page ain't great. When the lightning struck. Stars up at the sky. I steal the pennies from your eyes. Tell you the sweetest lies. When the lightning struck, I wield words. That will set the streets alight. When the lightning struck, take you with me to new heights. Thunder separates us. Give me a beat to beat my mind. Lightning a bus struck. That's when my mind woke up. I took a dance to the floor and rubbed Sam's up. Never enough, I covered in rust. Something enough, rising up, it is such a rush. But thunder separates us. Stand side by side, two of a kind. Beneath the crowd, jump, rebuild on the ground. And we got the shock of the sound wave. Prominent and we're dominant on the page ain't great. When the lightning struck.